Yo, Scottish Geek with the raid. Oh my goodness. Shark attack. Big ol' shark attack. I just turned the stream on like 3 minutes ago. Like, you gotta give me time to prepare for this. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Scottish Geek. Appreciate it so much. Oh my goodness. Out of nowhere with the big raid. Damn. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Jammy, Waltz Queen, Tangelo, hi, hello, yes. How's it going, Geek? Were you up to, have you checked out the D-Make or anything yet, or what were you doing today? Splat. Take that, you lousy hunter. D-Make on New Game Plus, nice, nice. Yeah, I'm probably not gonna check out the D-Make personally. It is awesome to see, and I'm glad everybody's enjoying it, but I probably won't be spending any time on it. It's very impressive how much work went into it though, and considering it took them like a year and they came out with what they did, like that's really impressive, to be honest. Yeah, hi, yes, hello, welcome on in everybody. I'm currently doing a lore and story playthrough in Bloodborne. I'm pretty far in through the game already. I can go and proceed through the Nightmare of Mensis whenever I feel like it. We've already gone way deep into the chalices. I've already started the Defiled Chalice, and I was struggle bussing a little bit on Watchdog, so I'm taking a break from that until I can get a plus 10 weapon and some gem upgrades. I'm messing around with the Beast Claws that I picked up in Lauren Chalices, but I've been maining the good old cane, the objectively the best weapon in the game, except no substitutes. But yeah, welcome on in everybody. Yeah, this is actually pretty tame, considering my my normal characters. Like this guy actually looks quite normal, considering his outfit is a little questionable. But yeah, I'm gonna proceed through the Nightmare of Mensis and hopefully get some dank upgrades. I don't even know what I'm doing here. But yeah, thank you once again to Scottish Geek for the raid. Coming right out of the gate. Love to see it. And yeah, when I do these lore and story playthroughs, I try to do as many of the quests as I possibly can. Obviously, you can't do all of the quests in a single playthrough. But I try to talk about all the different possible outcomes that can happen. We read the item descriptions, and I try to also talk about some of the themes and inspirations that led behind the story that we see here in Dark Souls and Bloodborne and Sekiro. Calm down, Brain of Mensis. I'm trying to tell a story here. God damn it. Alright, so I'm just gonna go through here and kill the Chime Lady. Hey, what's up, Moment? How's it going, man? I am playing online just so I can see specters and notes and that sort of stuff. So, oh, I already got invaded. Never mind. Get rid of that frenzy. Get smacked by that guy anyway. And I died to the... Alright, cool. That's fine. I didn't want to deal with the invasion anyway. Last guy that invaded me, I absolutely dunked on. But, yeah, I'm not really too keen on PvP, even though I got those big dirty gems. The online in Bloodborne was never affected by any of those things. You, because Bloodborne isn't on PC, you can't really hack it effectively. The multiplayer was taken down for all the other Dark Souls games because they're all online on PC. As far as I know, there's no vulnerability exploits on the, in Bloodborne. But all the other games are available on PC, so that's why they were affected. Get some pungies. You can use pungents to distract the beast-type enemies in the game. Gonna run past the giant lost children. That's what these dudes are called in the art book. The spikes coming out of me are a debuff called Frenzy. Frenzy is a physical manifestation of madness. So when you see or hear things that you can't really comprehend, it ends up causing the blood within you to literally erupt from your body and cause damage. These are the Tumerian Chime Maidens that we can see all throughout the Nightmare areas as well as the Unseen Village. If we read the Sinister Chalices that we can get that enable PvP, it confirms that the bell-ringing women are mad Tumerians, who are the people from the Chalices. And if we take a look at her outfit here, we can also see a distinct similarity between the look of her outfit and one of the paintings we saw in Canehurst. Gotta head off, Scottish Chic. Alright, enjoy your food. And once again, thank you for the raid. I super appreciate it. And yeah, everybody needs to go check out Scottish Geek for some Bloodborne action and other stuff. So now that we've killed the bell-ringing woman, I can no longer get invaded. I'm not really sure if there's a particular reason why she's standing in front of a Kin Coldblood. It is nice to get Kin Coldblood at this point in the game. Like, it's an appropriate amount of echoes to get. But, I'm not even really sure if any of the enemies in here count as kin, but if you remember when I was talking about Rom, the Kin Coldblood also mentions the world beyond humanity, the eldritch truth touched upon long ago at Bergenworth. The eldritch truth and the world beyond humanity both refer to the Nightmare and the nature of the Great Ones and how they operate. So we might find Kin Coldblood in the area, not because there's kin, but because we have entered the world beyond humanity, the Nightmare. In the art book and guides, these enemies are called giant lost children, and we can also find them in the Nightmare Frontier. These are the dudes that huck the rocks at us, as you can see. We all are, Dreklo. We all are. Well, as for why these things are called giant lost children, when we're dealing with the nightmares and dreams that we encounter, there's all sorts of new creatures that have essentially been either born or reborn in these areas. At the beginning of the game, I said that you could kind of regard the player character as being somebody who came here as a human, but is now reborn as a hunter. So maybe they are the souls of people that got trapped in the nightmare, and now they've assumed this new form. The only really particularly interesting detail on them, aside from their grotesque appearance, is that they have these scars all over their chest and their back that almost look like they've been kind of like whipped or like cut up or experimented on or something. And their shoes, if you want to call them that, are just bindings of thick rope that are wrapped around their feet. You can see they've got fur. It's not like really beastly fur. It's just like kind of normal looking fur. Yeah, I have the art book as well as the official Bloodborne guide. So if we look at the art book, they're referred to as giant lost children. You can hear the heartbeat of the brain of Menzies off in the distance. Yeah, giant lost child. So here we have the official Bloodborne art book. We can see here that the enemy is called Giant Lost Child, and the other enemies that we can run into later on are referred to as Murgo's attendants. And it's not just things that we see reborn in the nightmare that are referred to as child or children. If you remember the gargoyle guys from Castle Canehurst, the ones with the bat wings who use sound to attack you, those enemies are also referred to as being child of antiquity or children of antiquity. So even though they appear like old men, they are reborn as these gargoyle children, if you want to put it that way. We also refer to the messengers as children, because the adornments we get for them say that why not let them be happy and revel as babes. So there's a big emphasis that the creatures that inhabit the nightmare and dream worlds, they're all referred to as child, revel as babes, so on and so forth. Speaking of children, here we have the Mama Nope and her clutch of baby Nopes. One of the most terrifying rooms in the game if you're an arachnophobe. I know a little bit about the Japanese translations and everything, but I haven't really gone too far off the deep end with that sort of stuff. I know that everybody wants to look for the Japanese translations for some amount of like confirmation as to whether something has been translated properly or not, but I've always argued that if you go by the official art books and guides as well as the internal file names for a lot of the enemies and items in the game, it's basically just as good. Do I have a shaman? I think I have a shaman bone blade. I could probably use it here. I got 3. Excellent. So as far as I understand it, the spiders in this game are actually headless. Spiders are supposed to have 8 eyes, right? That's what kind of classifies them as a spider. You can have multiple different types of arachnids, but spiders have 8 legs and 8 eyes. I guess these things have more than 8 legs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These things have 12 legs. Why did I never notice that before? Interesting. But if we look at where their heads are supposed to be, it almost kind of looks like there's just 4 little eyes or something. And if these things kill us, that's where our souls appear. You'll see that little bit of their head get highlighted. But I think if you look at the internal files for the game, these are just headless spiders. And the only spiders that have true heads are the ones with Patches' head. Now, there's the true Patches, who we can do a quest line for, who pushes us off a ledge and does all that sort of stuff. But there's also the bowl cut spiders that we can see later on in the Nightmare of Mensis. And I believe the file name for the spider enemies is Apostle... Nightmare Apostle? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're called Nightmare Apostle. Now, what the hell does an apostle mean? I know that it's like a church title. Tracy, you're a cat. You're not even real. Oh, so an apostle is one of the 12 chief disciples of Jesus Christ. So Jesus Christ had 12 bros, and he named them all as his apostles, and he also gave them new names to coincide with their new rank. The more broad interpretation is that it's the first successful missionary in a country or to a people. So a missionary is somebody who travels from place to place trying to spread the word of God or the word of their religion. So a nightmare apostle would be something that goes from nightmare to nightmare or nightmare to the waking world as that sort of thing. I guess you could kind of consider Patches to be a nightmare apostle then, doesn't he? Because he's a follower of Amygdala. He worships Amygdala directly. And he can be found traveling throughout the different nightmare worlds and the waking world as well. Huh, interesting. So another thing that's kind of interesting about spiders is matrophagy. Matrophagy is when you eat your mother after being born, and that is how spiders, for the most part, operate. Shortly after erupting from their eggs, hundreds and hundreds of baby spiders will consume the mother as their first meal. Referred to as matrophagy or matrophagy. Matri or matriarch means mother or a woman in charge of a family or order, and phagy means to eat. So matrophagy means to eat your mother. Very wholesome indeed. Spiders usually drop bullets, which I've always found kind of weird, but spiders are probably a pretty strong thing in Bloodborne, not just because of the kind of fear and horror that they evoke, but also because spiders have many eyes, and we know that eyes represent insight and knowledge. So if the other spiders that we can run into later have human heads like Patches, and Patches gives us a Great One's wisdom, which is an inclination to the high levels of insight that he has, you can see how the themes of eyes are all the way from the beginning of the game, but then we also have, spider webs connecting all the eyes here, all over the place. But yeah, I've watched many first playthroughs of Bloodborne, and most people who have a fear of spiders just nope, and they just don't even bother with this room. They just dip as fast as they can. Infermo, thank you for the bits. Appreciate you, man. Despicable Foe, he's not that bad. There we can hear the cries of Murgo, the baby present in the Wet Nurse boss fight. And here we have Edgar Acquire Intelligence. I don't necessarily know if this guy is named as such in the art book of the guide or anything, but it's been basically confirmed that his name is Edgar Acquire Intelligence. Now, in order for us to get to the Upper Cathedral Ward, we had to loot a key from a corpse of a choir member in the Unseen Village. And similarly, here in the Nightmare of Mensis, we have a choir member trying to gain intelligence and possibly bring it back. I'm not necessarily sure if this guy has free reign over going to and from the nightmare, such as we do. He seems to be just, defending the bridge here. But he uses magic that members of the choir and the School of Mensis use. And he also uses the Rosmarinus, the canister that's shooting this kind of silver spray at you. It's a choir hunter tool, or a choir weapon, I should say. And when people spray the Rosmarinus, you can hear a choir of angels as part of the mist. Hey Mad Rose, what's up? Oh, that's gonna get me. I'm dead. Oh, I'm alive. Oh, now I'm dead. I thought he was gonna visceral attack me. He debated me. And yeah, if you die to Edgar, he does the joy gesture. I didn't die by accident. I died to show you the gesture. The gesture? Yeah, totally on purpose death for lore purposes. No doubt about it. Yes. Indeed. These enemies that I ran by earlier are called Lauren Silver Beasts, and they can also be found in the Lauren Chalices. Hey Orphan, hey Fausty, what's up guys? We can see this flower symbol all over the place. I'm not necessarily sure if it's exactly supposed to be a flower, or if it has some sort of roots in Catholicism or occult imagery or something, but we see it on a lot of the architecture. We see it here, we can see it in the Unseen Village, and I believe it's also in the Chalice Dungeons. Now, yeah, reused assets, blah blah, whatever, but we do see a lot of flower imagery on the game. It's on tombstones, it's on the architecture, and not only do we have the ritual materials that are made up out of flowers, but there's also the notion that the moon presence's name might also be Flora. So we also have the flowers in the Upper Cathedral Ward, as well as the Nightmare. Okay, this is not good. This is not a good thing. Did they leash? We can also see that he's using Ludwig's Holy Blade, which is kind of interesting for a choir member, now that I think about it. But it does make him a pretty formidable enemy, and we have to remember that the choir and the School of Mensis are both orders within the church, so it should be no surprise that a member of the choir is using a church weapon. Oh, look at that roll tech, oh my god. Oh, don't hit me with the vape again, please. I've had enough. And you're dead. Yeah, I can gesture when I win a fight too there, bud. You bastard. And he drops sedatives. Sedatives are used to counter frenzy, so that helps explain how he was able to get up this far without getting blasted by frenzy spikes. I think a lot of people still don't realize that the sedative is used to counter frenzy in particular. It really has no other use in the game aside from being able to prevent you from getting frenzied. But it's surprising how many people still don't know about it. We find yellow backbones as well as inflicted organs in this place, and we remember that the purpose of the Mensis ritual was to beckon the moon. And both of these ritual materials talk about beckoning ungodly forces within the Chalice Dungeons. These little dudes are called Murgo's Attendants. Wait, how did this guy get my echoes? Wait, they aren't even... Okay, I'll take it. That's fine. I thought he was gonna have 0 echoes on him, but that's cool. Oh, those must be the echoes I got from killing the spiders before. Yeah, I don't have the other ranks of the cold blood flowers, but we can see their bulbs, and you can even see that faint kind of luminescence on the bulbs. And then the full-blown flowers have the the arcane haze that we can see all over them as well. And even though there's very little sunlight in the Chalice dungeons, the deal with the cold blood flowers is they grow in close proximity to death. So when we're talking about the cold blood flowers and tomb mold, we have life that springs from death or decaying matter. See, I don't know if those are like whip marks or if their like skin is just cracked and bleeding or something. It's also interesting that we really only see these enemies in the Nightmare of Mensis. You see them in the Nightmare Frontier as well, but the Nightmare Frontier is a part of the Nightmare of Mensis. But you don't see these guys in the Chalices anywhere as far as I know. And the frenzy can also affect the enemies in the area as well. There we have the first rank of the Eye Rune. That's the first rank, and the one that we get from Willem is actually the second rank. Oh god. Too slow. Something I noticed recently is that the elevator switches in the Nightmare of Mensis slightly resemble the eye pendant that we get in the Hunter's Nightmare. It's like an eye in the middle covered in concentric circles. Got some more Murgo's attendants here. I also found out recently about these guys is that they will occasionally drop items. I don't think they're really any good items, like it's like poison knives or bloodstone shards or something like that. But if you stand around here long enough and don't aggro them, eventually they'll just poop items onto the ground, which is kind of weird. And these are also unique enemies to the Nightmare of Mensis. We don't see them anywhere else. I'm gonna look up the word attendant really quick to see if there's any sort of stuff I can glean from it. Yeah, it just says that it's a person employed to provide a service to the public in a particular place. So, attendant childbirth. So a birth attendant can also mean somebody who assists during the pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum period. You can also refer to them as midwives, or even in some cases, wet nurses. So that goes hand in hand with us fighting the wet nurse boss at the end of the area. So an attendant can also be a word for a midwife. A midwife is loosely a nurse that specializes in assisting with pregnant women during their pregnancy or childbirth. Postpartum period is the period after the child is born. Not only do you have the kind of recovery after giving birth, but there's also like psychological and depression issues that can happen once you're done being pregnant. There's also those issues while you're pregnant and, you know, during the whole course of the child's life and everything as well. But the postpartum period refers to specifically the changes in the woman's body after the child is born. No, I haven't done the DLC yet. I'll be going into the DLC once I'm basically finished with the main story. This is a part of the main game, though. It's not optional. If you want to beat the game, you have to go through this area. The eyeballs in this area have little spider legs on them. And they also have these little plants growing up out of the iris in the eye, which is pretty disgusting. We also have a bunch of books that are scattered all throughout the area. Yo, Jamie, thanks for the follow.
There's no room on this paper to properly describe how much I hate you. Go die.
We also have a bunch of broken mirrors in this area. In the Unseen Village, we saw mirrors that were covered up, and these ones have all been smashed to pieces. We also see mirrors during the Mikolash boss fight, where he jumps through the mirrors in order to teleport around the area. And mirrors also have ties to, you know, self-reflection, looking at your own face and, you know, the psychological effects that that can have. Most people associate mirrors with like narcissism and self-obsession, which could also be a kind of a vibe here. But if we read the lecture building key, it says that the two-story lecture building in Bergenworth was once a place of reflection where scholars learned of history and archaeology. And Mikolash, the boss at the end of this area, wears the student uniform from Bergenworth. So you have to think of it in a way that when we study archaeology and when we study the pasts of our history, like, you know, cavemen, Neanderthals, and everything in between up to the modern day, we're essentially reflecting on ourselves. And we look to the past in an effort to understand more about the present and the future. Dubious liquid medicine used in strange experiments conducted by high ministers of the Healing Church, a type of anesthetic that numbs the brain. Hunters able to retain consciousness by force of will make use of a secondary effect of the medicine, which dilutes their presence while standing still. So, because the Nightmare of Mensis is based on the School of Mensis, those were all church members. So we find blue elixirs as well as sedatives here. This also affords us an opportunity to get through this area a little bit easier. So whenever there's a spot where you find blue elixirs on the ground, I usually take that as an invitation to use one of the ones that I've gotten before. They are kind of limited in quantity, but I'll be able to buy them with insight soon enough anyway. So if you use the blue elixir here, basically what it does is it makes it so that the enemies have a smaller aggro radius. So I'll be able to sneak past all these jesters and arrow shooting guys without having to deal with them too much. I forgot they dropped dirty blood gems. Those are rapid poison. And you can see that this guy's bow even causes a little bit of rapid poison. Huh. Yeah, dirty is rapid poison and murky is slow poison. And rapid poison has a really strong association with the Vile Bloods as well as Queen Yarnum. It's kind of interesting that it's only the Oh, so they all cause rapid poison. Interesting. See you in the pit, motherfucker. There's a lead elixir here. Lead elixir is said to manifest within the most desperate nightmares. And we also have this pit below us, which is where we can eventually find the brain of Mensis once we drop it down below. Bird dogs. Dog birds. Come on now. There you go. So most people just like run past these guys and they don't even bother with them. If we look at these ones, the bird dogs have surrounded what appears to be the body of a dog bird, and it looks like they're eating it. And even if we go forward and we try to lock on, I can lock on to the active ones, but the one in the middle appears to be dead, like we can't even lock on to it. But then once we get close enough, they all end up attacking us. See? There, he woke up. Call your mother. This variant of these enemies is only found in this area, and it lends to the, nightmarish aspect of the place. The explanation for finding, like, the dogs and the birds and the pigs and snakes in the main game is likely that they just consumed old blood, or they consumed corpses that were infected with old blood and became the way that they are. So these ones that we find in the Nightmare of Mensis are likely either just a nightmarish rendition of those memories, or you could also say that they might be experiments that Mikolash is doing here in the Nightmare. When we engage Mikolash as a boss, he says, "No one can catch us, no one can stop us now." And it kind of leads people to believe that he's either like this rogue agent, or likely that now that he's in the Nightmare, he's kind of just free to study and experiment as he pleases. But if you ask me, it's more just about it being the fact that these nightmares and dreams are based on the memories that the people are based off of. Crows frequently drop pebbles. Crows in real life and other types of birds will collect like marbles and other kind of small trinkets and baubles and decorate their nests with them. And this is also an aspect of their intelligence as well. It's not necessarily that they see beauty in these objects. I mean, maybe that's one way that you could put it. But there are certain types of birds that they'll collect, like, certain things they find on the ground, and they'll arrange them in a particular way in an effort to attract mates and that sort of stuff. Now, when we're down in the Nightmare Frontier, we can look up and see the Murgo's Loft. So we can see the Nightmare of Mensis directly from the Nightmare Frontier. But when we're up in the far reaches of the Nightmare of Mensis, either the Nightmare Frontier is shrouded in fog, or we can't really see it. There are these little kind of gravestone-looking rocks off in the distance. And we do see similar kind of stones in the Nightmare Frontier. So it might just be that the entire place is shrouded in fog. Let me smash. Alright, so there's the elevator shortcut. There's the bridge that we crossed earlier. So Brain of Mensis must be up here, roughly. You still can't see it from this angle, though. Up until you get to a certain point, you can't really see the Brain of Mensis. You can just see the lights that it produces and the heartbeat and other sounds that it makes. There is a gem that you can get here. The gem is really only good if you never went to the chalices. And even if you pick up this gem, it's really only good for the Mako Lash boss fight. Once you're done with Mako Lash, you immediately find more gems that are a direct upgrade. 12.6% is pretty good if you haven't been to the chalices, but I'm pretty sure my cane has, yeah, I'm at like 18 and 19% on those ones. The key thing about the gems you find after Mako Lash, as well as the ones that drop from the Winter Lanterns, is they count as droplets. So if you're confined to triangle gems or waning gems, depending on what type of weapon you're using, the droplets can fit into any slot, which makes them quite valuable. Here we have the mannequins in the Mako Lash boss fight. They've got this kind of like Rayman quality, where their limbs are separated from their bodies and they kind of stretch the limbs out that way. Another interesting feature on these dudes, aside from their guts hanging out from underneath their garments, is they have this very distinct hole above their heart. Or not above their heart, I guess it's like where their heart would be. This is not only reminiscent of the Hollows in Dark Souls, where you have a gaping hole in your chest where every time you die, your humanity leaks out of the hole until you become hollow. But there's also a few ancient cultures where, like if we think about the ancient Egyptians, they didn't think that the soul resided in the mind. They thought the soul resided in the hearts. So, in an effort to preserve the body better, they would dig out the brains with a stick and then extract them from the skull, and they would leave the heart intact so that the soul could carry on into the afterlife. I'm not necessarily sure if that's why these guys have the appearance that they do, but I remember digging around in some root chalices, and I wasn't able to fight these guys in the chalices, but I did find their corpses on the ground, unanimated. So I thought that was pretty curious. But yeah, nothing really explains the purpose of these guys. I'm not even really sure what they're called, to be honest. I can see their art here, but it doesn't say what their official name is. Rip. Yeah, it's nice to have. It's not just that you can glean lore stuff from it, but like having a nice physical hard copy of the concept art and in-game art it's kind of nice. The guide does offer some degree of insight as well, but I think the art book is probably better to have. Hey Nick, what's up, man?
Cause. Or some say cosm. Do you hear our prayers? No, we shall not abandon the dream. No one can catch us. No one can stop us now.
Mikolash, host of the nightmare. Ooh, I got that good RNG. Mikolash is a bit of a pain in the butt because you can't actually fight him until he runs into a specific section of the room. If he runs up this way, you can kind of chase him up here and then chase him down to this spot. And then once he runs down there, he'll end up where he is now. And then when he's in the spot that he's in now, you can coax him into the room the right way. Whether he runs this way first or this way first is all up to RNG. I think technically he's weaker to fire. I can't really remember though. And yeah, I was referring to them as mannequins, but I guess puppets is probably a better term. That's gonna... What? Why did that not... Okay.
Majestic! A hunter is a hunter, even in a dream. But alas, not too fast. Nightmares, rolls, and churns unending.
Majestic. Hey Polaris, what's up, man? Or Ollie, I guess I should say. Everybody check out Ollie. He's doing a God of War playthrough right now. As long as his internet provider allows him to. Did I spell that right? Alright, I did. Excellent. Hey Black OT, what's up, man? Going pretty good. I just started. Gonna clear up the Nightmare of Mensis and then jump into the Defiled Chalice. Just got into Helheim? Nice. Helheim is probably one of my favorite areas in that game. The purpose of the Mensis ritual was to beckon the moon, so we find another moon rune here. The School of Mensis controls the Unseen Village. The first rank of this rune we saw in the Unseen Village, and the second rank we get here. We also get the third rank here, for that matter. And it talks about how the Great Ones are sympathetic in spirit and will often answer when called upon. When contact is made, they will answer. Motherfucker. Any awooers in the chat?
As you once did for the vacuous Rome. Grant us eyes. Grant us eyes.
Ooh. If you really want to, you can cheese Mikolash from this spot. You can shoot him from all the way up here, and if you use Bone Marrow Ash, you can do quite a bit of damage to him. I just felt like running, Jenny. Hello. How's it going? Got places to be? Oh no, I broke him. Oh god. I kinda want the cage match. I wanna fight him legit. But I also can't coax the dialogue out of him this. Oh no, I might have fucked it up. Please get in your cage. Please get in your cage. Oh god. Okay, I'm just gonna run away and see if that works. I want to coax his dialogue out of him if he still does it. I just heard the gate close. There we go. Rayman looking ass. You didn't miss much. Mikolash wasn't cooperating with me because I bunged up the fight a little bit.
Some say cousin. Prayers, as you once did for the vacuous one. Glass eyes, eyes are bruised, cleansed, beastly idiocy. A round lake of mud, hidden now from sight. Cosmos, of course. Let us sit about and speak feverishly, chatting into the wee hours of new ideas of the higher plane.
If you're having trouble dodging a call beyond, stand about this far away, dodge forward.
Of course.
If you're too close, he'll usually do the Augur of Ebrietis, which can parry you. Stand this far away, and dodge forward. I didn't hit the button at the right time. Mistimed that one. You can also use gunshots to interrupt the attack. You gotta be quick, though, or else it doesn't work.
Now I'm waking up. I'll forget everything.
Hey, Speed. Yeah, I hope it helps. It still takes a little bit of practice, but it's all about spacing and timing. But using the gunshot to counter it is the way that I did it for the most part when I was starting out. Back when I was a wee hunter. So the same elevator, or the same bridge that took us into the boss fight, now takes us to the next level. Takes us to a higher plane of existence, if you want to put it that way. The School of Mensis controls the Unseen Village. This hexagonal iron cage suggests their strange ways. The cage is a device that restrains the will of the self, allowing one to see the profane world for what it is. It also serves as an antenna that facilitates contact with the Great Ones of the Dream. But to an observer, the iron cage appears to be precisely what delivered them to their harrowing nightmare. So we already knew that the School of Mensis controls the Unseen Village from some of the items that we picked up earlier. But also keeping in mind, the School of Mensis and the Choir are both the upper echelons of the Healing Church. So anything the School of Mensis or the Choir does is in service of the Church. It says that the cage is hexagonal. The hexagon is a geometric shape that has all sorts of different meanings and implications. But we also saw hexagonal stones in the Nightmare Frontier earlier on, which reminded us of the basalt rock formations that form when lava pours into cold water and cools very quickly, producing these oddly shaped hexagonal stones. It also says that the cage is a device that restrains the will of the self. If you remember some of the corpses that we saw in the Unseen Village, as well as Mikolash's mummy, which we used to gain access to the nightmare, there were all sorts of bindings and chains around their wrists and legs. So by using these bindings and these cages, they restrain the will of the self, allowing them to see the profane world for what it is, which also helps explain what happens to us when we gain insight and see these new things in the world. There's obviously a tie-in with large amounts of knowledge and insight and madness and frenzy, but essentially what's happening is the higher insight we have, the more of the world we're able to see for what it is. So we aren't going crazy and seeing these things. The higher insight we have, the more truth is revealed to us. When people hide their eyes, either by covering them up with bandages or removing them from their head entirely, it prevents them from seeing the truth, which lends into beastly idiocy. Beastliness is the opposite of insight. It also says the iron cage appears to be precisely what delivered them to their harrowing nightmare. Delivering is what happens when somebody is born. You are delivering a baby. So in essence, the School of Mensis has been reborn in the nightmare. We also got a key earlier. Key to the iron gate blocking the great mid-level bridge. Of the 3 great bridges that link the 2 cathedral cradles, this key opens the iron door that leads to the mid-level bridge. There are no thieves in the nightmare, then why lock a door? Be warned, there must be a very, very good reason. We can use this door at the beginning of the boss area, but if we use it right now, it'll take us right into the brain of Mensis, where we get blasted with frenzy. I will, let me get this lantern, and then I can show you guys that. So Mikolash was a student of Bergenworth. This is evidenced by his high levels of insight, as well as the uniform that he wears. He's wearing the student uniform of Bergenworth. And he's referred to as the host of the nightmare, because each nightmare and dream is comprised up of 2 things. You have a human who makes contact with a great one. When contact is made, this new place called a nightmare or dream is born from the memories and from the memories of the person that made contact. So when we're talking about the Nightmare of Mensis, we have Mikolash is the host to Murgo. Murgo is a Great One baby. Whenever we kill a boss that's in charge of a nightmare, we get the Nightmare Slain message. So we get the Nightmare Slain message from Murgo once they are laid to rest. We get it from Moon Presence, who is in control of the dream, and we also get it when we kill the spirit of the Orphan of Kos, which arises from the corpse of Kos once we're done fighting the other orphan. So the chords tell us... Well, the first chord that we get in the Hunter's Dream says that this chord precipitated the encounter with the pale moon, which beckoned the hunters and conceived the Hunter's Dream. The chord that we get from the Wet Nurse says that that chord is what granted Mensis, the School of Mensis, audience with Murgo, which resulted in the stillbirth of their brains. So my headcanon is that nightmares and dreams don't exist until a human makes contact with a Great One. That human becomes a host and is forevermore cursed by being trapped in this nightmare or dreamscape forevermore. So we could loosely infer that Gurman is the host of the Hunter's Dream, Mikolash is the host of the Nightmare of Mensis, and if there was a host of the Hunter's Nightmare, I guess we could probably say that it's possibly Maria, although there's not really a whole lot of evidence for that in particular. I personally argue that the Hunter's Nightmare was born from the sin of the fishing hamlet, which you could also argue was garnered by making contact with a Great One. La la la. Do you mind? See some winter lanterns down there. Alright, I want to go show you guys the key before I triggered the Brain of Mensis. And yeah, there's an awful lot of dialogue that Mikolash goes through during the boss fight. It's hard for me to talk about it because Mikolash constantly interrupts me. But there's a few really big pieces of information that we can glean from it. One is that he seems to be saying a prayer to Kos. Before the DLC came out, we had no perspective on who Kos was. We didn't know if it was a great one. We didn't know if it was somebody else. And when he says Kos, or some say Cosm, this is a tie-in with the Nightmare and the Cosmos. And eventually what we come to learn in the Hunter's Nightmare DLC is that there's also ties in with great bodies of water as well. So that's why he says Kos, or some say Cosm. It's supposed to be a reference to the cosmic nature of the Great Ones. He also implies that Kos was the one who granted Rom eyes. So if we use chords to turn into a Great One at the end of the game, it may have been contact with Kos, which resulted in Rom turning into what we see them as, but the only evidence for this is the ramblings of Mikolash. He also says plant eyes on our brain to cleanse our beastly idiocy, and this is obviously a tie-in with insight and how it's the opposite of beastliness. He also refers to the Grand Lake of Mud, hidden now from sight. I don't really know if there's like folklore or mythology that talks about Lake of Mud, but the way that I've always kind of loosely interpreted it is that when we look into deep bodies of water, or even if we look into the cosmos, we don't have a clear image of what's at the bottom or the other side. It appears to be very murky and unclear, and there are notes of clarity and unclarity in the game. As we go up in higher ranks of rune, we see the runes with more clarity and more detail. So when Mikolash is saying the Grand Lake of Mud, hidden now from sight, he says that it's hidden now from sight. So it either has something to do with the nightmares and dreams that he can no longer interact with because he's trapped in this one, or it could also refer to something to do with the unseen village, because it's a place that is hidden from us. It also has to do with the nature of Rom, and we can't see the Mensis ritual or the Pale Blood Sky until Rom is killed. So Rom hides those things from us. I also believe that if we look at the cut content of the game, you can fight the Moon Presence in the Chalice dungeons, but it's a different version of the Chalice dungeons. I can't remember if there's an internal file that says the boss arena is called the Lake of Mud, but he also refers to it as the Grand Lake of Mud. So if we want to say that the nightmares and dreams have this heavy association with water and everything, then the Grand Lake of Mud might be like this giant cosmic ocean that connects everything. We also have the Great Lake rune. There's all sorts of different lakes runes and sea runes, but the Great Deep Sea rune increases all resistance type. It doesn't increase a particular resistance type. It encompasses all resistance types. So if we want to say that all rivers and lakes connect to the sea or the ocean, that helps lens into that a little bit. We know that the dream is connected to all these other places, but we also see evidence that the other nightmares, the Hunter's Nightmare, the Nightmare Frontier, the Nightmare Mensis, they're all connected to each other as well. So because there's this heavy association with water and mist and lakes and seas, we could basically see the entire universe, including all planes of existence, as being part of a greater cosmic ocean. Even if we look out in the Hunter's Dream, we can see that aside from the mist and fog, there are great rolling waves of blue water off in the distance.
Welcome home, good hunter. What is it you desire?
Yeah, like a lot of people say that if it was cut content, it's not canon. But I've always been of the thought that it doesn't matter whether the content was cut or not. We have to take a look at that content and see how it lines up with what we find in the final release of the game. But I think that that Mikolash's dialogue and referring to it as the Grand Lake of Mud hidden now from sight, I'm not really totally sure whether it refers to something in particular or whether it's just like a kind of blanket term. Like, I know it's kind of head-ass to say that it's vague on purpose, but I think that it's purposefully left vague and open because it applies to so many different things.
Very well.
Okay, I'm gonna put on the eye rune in the hopes that I get some more gems. I have enough skill that I don't really need a claw mark rune to kill this stuff anyway. But I remember, like, it was either Last Protagonist or Cool Man that led me on to the Grand Lake of Mud being the Moon Presence's cut boss arena, but I'm not really sure, like, I can't really remember it, to be honest. But if we take a look at the terminology, you know, Grand Lake of Mud, it just refers to how unclear it is that all this stuff is connected. But I think that my analogy of looking into a deep body of water or the cosmos as being like a grand lake of mud, think about how like the Hubble telescope is going to compare to this new telescope that we've put into the cosmos. It allows us to cut through all the noise and mud, and it's going to allow us to see the universe in greater clarity. Here we have another inflicted organ. The only other place we can find these is in the Chalice dungeons, and it refers to beckoning ungodly forces. If we time our parry well enough, or our riposte well enough, we can essentially iframe the frenzy damage. Come on, big money. Yes. I'll take a weapon durability down. I'll take that. That's fine. And here we can see how the stone formations all throughout the Nightmare Menses with their twisted faces therein, they kind of resemble the wandering madnesses that we can find in the other areas as well. The little scurrying dudes that drop weapon upgrades materials for us. I've also interpreted this as being either the souls of the School of Mensis, or possibly even the great many people that were kidnapped and sacrificed in effort of the Mensis ritual. We also find very similar stones in the Hunter's Nightmare, and all throughout the Hunter's Nightmare, even though it's supposed to be a prison for hunters, we also see evidence that their victims are trapped there as well. When all is melted in blood, all is reborn. Nice. The good thing about weapon durability down is that it only counts one of the gems. Even if you have 3 weapon durability down gems in, it only counts one of them. So you're free to stack as many of them as you want. 3 for 3, let's fucking go. And that's a beast down. That's fine. I'll take that. This tempering damp one isn't cursed and gives us just a flat 18% damage. And because its shape is a droplet, droplets can fit into any shape of gem slot. So it doesn't matter if my weapon needs a radial, and a waning. I can just slap a bunch of droplets in there and they'll fit no matter what. Here we have the bowl cut Nightmare Apostles. Hey Sir God, what's up, man? And these ones have some pretty uncommon attacks they can use, like this one. And that one. Oh, perfect. Oh my god. The RNG on this run is unbelievable. I have danced around these spiders for like 10 minutes trying to show off those moves, and then they did both of them 2 in a row. This is 1000% the run. So the Brain of Mensis, which we're going to see here, and us using devices to drop it down, is very reminiscent of what we see in Upper Latria in Demon Souls. In Demon Souls, there is an area called Upper Latria where there's this giant heart, and when we take down the heart, a bunch of demons spring up out of it. So this is very much a layover from that, and we'll see the Brain of Mensis in greater detail once I get down there. I think it just does damage. I don't think the ass goop does like poison or anything. Like I'm not sure if it does any sort of status effect at all. I can't remember. A couple more spiders down here I might be able to coax it out of though. Although these are just sick. Amazing. It's been a long time since I've done that. It's been a very long time since I've done that. Just hold the stick up, forehead. I can go around the other way now. I already got the gems that I want, so I don't really want to do all that garbage again. And once you gain access to the top portion of the Nightmare of Mensis, PvP is enabled within the entire area still, because there's another Chime Maiden up there. So if you really want to waste an invader's time, you can run around the entirety of the zone until they end up just quitting out, which I may have done a few times in the past. Now that we've knocked down the Brain of Mensis, we're free to explore this way without getting blasted by Frenzy. Like these poor folk. They did it all in worship of the Great One, though, so I don't think they really minded too much. There's nothing new and interesting in the description of the Damp Blood Tinge gem or the Arcane Damp Blood gem. They do look pretty cool though. if we drop down here, we can get our first rock. Frenzied cold blood. This manifestation of madness comes from a mind teetering on the very brink. But has a sane mind ever produced anything of true significance? So the frenzy debuff is a physical manifestation of madness that we see from beholding great ones or stuff related to great ones. And it literally causes spikes to erupt from our blood. A large solid chunk that forms in cold blood. After death, the substance in the blood hardens, and that which does not crystallize is called a bloodstone. This is no mere chunk, it is nearly a boulder. Few bloodstones of such size have ever been discovered, even considering the combined experience of all the hunters. If I was to proceed forward into that other area, we would also find the choir bell. The choir bell is similar to the other bells that we see, except instead of using it to cross the gap between worlds, it invigorates the self and party members. It's also a lost artifact of the choir, so finding a hunter tool that belongs to the choir locked in a chest in the School of Mensis helps reinforce the notion that there's some sort of feud going on between the School of Mensis and the choir. And it may also be why Edgar, Choir Intelligence, is investigating the area. He may just be trying to retrieve their lost tool. God damn it. So here we have the brain of Mensis, the creature that was blasting us with radiant frenzy in the earlier portion of the area. We can see that it's a brain made up out of multiple eyes. And if we take a really close look, we can also see that it's made up out of thousands of messengers, the same as the Winter Lanterns. So the messengers aren't just inhabitants of the nightmare and the dream, they also make up a lot of the different enemies and creatures that we can find within them, as well as the crawlers lining their bellies. The brain of Mensis has very similar hands to what we see on the amygdala. They're basically exactly the same now that I look at them. And there's also similarities between the brain of Mensis and the cut content moon presence boss. It's got these same kind of like tendrils and growths sticking up out of the back. I didn't go to Upper Cathedral Ward first. Ugh. God damn it, why do I always forget to do this? Always do Upper Cathedral Ward before you do the Nightmare of Mensis. Always, always, always. God damn it. You need a gesture to get rune from the brain of Mensis. Technically I don't need it, but it's still nice to have. Yo, Sergod with the resub. Almost a year, dude. Thanks, man. Alright, let's slap these gems in there. Am I blind? There it is. I don't really want a durability down in this one, so I'll just put him in the Beast Claw. That one's actually better than the other one. Okay, I never completed Alfred's quest line either, so let me go do that real quick. I did this run in a completely weird order of operations. I still don't have my shit down pat, it seems. Oh yeah. Now that we've killed Mikolash, when we come back to the chapel, we see that Ariana's gone and there's a trail of blood leading us down over this way.
Oh, kind hunter. The old girl you sent over, she's dead. Killed, stone dead. Why? Must have been a beast, right? Or do you think someone out there could have... I just don't... Oh... Well... I do know. It's my fault. Oh my... Was it a beast? Or could someone from outside have come in and... I just... don't know. I'm begging you! Stop!
Can't talk to him anymore. Yo, Sergod gifting out a community sub to Dreklo Lamau. Thank you, dude. Appreciate it, man. So here we can see why Ariana wasn't feeling too good either. When the red moon hangs low, the line between man and beast is blurred, and a womb will be blessed with a child.
It can't be. This is a nightmare.
And here we can see what happens if we take 4 blood from Ariana, and Adela isn't able to kill her in the process. Yeah, they're fine. It's kind of like the vacuum cleaner. They just hide in a different room and just chill.
I've never been happier.
So you have to reload the area. Alright, so I guess the myth isn't busted. She definitely does have dialogue.
I've never been happier.
Yikes, dude. Fucking yikes. That's cool. More lore is good. That's something new for me, and I'm the fucking lore guy, right? So, that's pretty cool. Little insight into beardless Devon for you. So yeah, that dialogue where she says that she's never been happier, that's only triggerable if you take 4 blood or more from Ariana, and Adela isn't otherwise able to murder her. Shoes worn by Ariana, woman of the night in Cathedral Ward, innocent and cute in contrast with its owner. And if we take a look at Ariana's dress, we see that it's a noble dress worn by the nobles of the old bloodline that traces back to the forsaken Castle Canehurst. So it was Ariana's vile blood that allowed her to carry this children, this Great One baby. A great relic, also known as the Cord of the Eye, every infant Great One has this precursor to the umbilical cord. Every Great One loses its child and then yearns for a surrogate. And Odin, the formless Great One, is no different. To think it was corrupted blood that began this eldritch liaison, used to gain insight, and so they say eyes on the inside, although no one remembers what that truly entails. So we learned that Odin has inadvertent worshippers. So the people who bear Odin's rune do what they do in service of Odin, whether they're aware of what they're doing or not. This is very reminiscent of H.P. Lovecraft's story about Cthulhu, where Cthulhu is an old one asleep in the sea, but as he is asleep, he dreams, and as he dreams, he's able to reach out to people who are weak-minded and influence them to conduct rituals which will awaken or beckon him. And this also explains why Adela is jealous of Ariana. Adela knows that her blood is lowly, and even though she has been groomed as a vessel for blood for the healing church, she understands that Ariana's vile blood is more potent and more valuable than hers. So the more corrupted blood is, the closer it is to divinity, and this allows the formless Great One Odin to impregnate people through their use of the blood. If we look at the formless Odin rune, it says that the Great One Odin, lacking form, exists only in voice, and is symbolized by this rune. Human or no, the oozing blood is a medium of the highest grade and the essence of the formless Great One Odin. Both Odin and his inadvertent worshippers surreptitiously seek the precious blood. So, Odin is able to influence or even impregnate people who have been infected with old blood. But if we look at the Cold Blood Dew description, it states that blood echoes are used by hunters sustained by the dream who gain strength from them. So Odin doesn't have anything to do with blood echoes in particular, but he does have a strong association with blood. Maybe that's drawing a line where there needn't be one, but alright, time to kill everybody in the cathedral.
I only wanted to be your friend.
So the Chapel Dweller drops another rank of the formless Odin rune, which means he is one of the inadvertent worshippers. We can also get an Odin Writhe rune from Adela, which explains why she is compelled to attack us once we take too much of Ariana's blood. Writhe sees a subtle mucus in the warmth of blood and acknowledges visceral attacks as one of the Darka Hunter techniques. Visceral attacks restore Quicksilver bullets. Human or no, the oozing blood is a medium of the highest grade and the essence of the formless Grade 1 Odin. Both Odin and his inadvertent worshippers surreptitiously seek the precious blood. And the lying man drops us some pungent blood cocktails. So the people who drop Odin runes are the Chapel Dweller, Gascoigne's daughter if we send her to the clinic, Yosefka, Adela. So all of these people have ties to Odin in one way or another, whether it be them dropping an item directly referencing him or otherwise. We also fight Gascoigne at the Tomb of Odin, and if we look at the word or the name Odin, it's Oedon. There's a story in Greek mythology about a man named Oedipus. Oedipus had the very unfortunate tale where he was convinced that he had to kill his father in order to hook up with a particular woman, but after he killed his father and did a bunch of stuff with the woman, he realized that the woman was in fact his mother, and when he gained this insight, he gouged his eyes out with a brooch. If you remember, a brooch is what we collected from Viola's corpse after the Gascoigne boss fight, and we could hand in the brooch to the little girl, which would cause her to realize that both of her parents were dead. Oedipism, Oedipism, is the act of removing somebody's eyeballs, and autoedipism would be removing your own eyeballs. An exquisite eyeball removed quickly after death, or perhaps even before, used to unlock the seal of the old labyrinth hintertombs. So we not only have themes of Oedipism throughout the game, but this is also what causes people to not gain more insights, lending into their beastly idiocy. Let's go fight the Bloody Crow.
Is that you again? I'm afraid I've made a bit of a blunder. I'm just going to have a short rest. Though, don't worry. I've taken blood. Enough to save an old woman. No more dreams for me. This is my last chance. What a fool I am. I'll have to tread carefully. But that thing still lies in wait. Turn back. This is my score to settle.
Right, so there's an interesting piece of the dialogue there where Eileen says, be careful, or it seems I've made a bit of a blunder. Just gonna flick through a video here real quick.
Father, it's you. I'm afraid I made a bit of a blunder.
So the line, "I'm afraid I made a bit of a blunder," is shared between Owl and Sekiro, and Eileen the Crow in this game. There's a few different examples of shared dialogue. It doesn't necessarily imply that there's a connection, but it does kind of add a little bit to the FromSoft vibe, I guess you could say. And yeah, Eileen also says that there's no more dreams for her. So even though she's a hunter like us, she is no longer confined to the curse of the night of the hunt and the dream. If she dies, she's dead for good. Same with Jura, the retired hunter. Just caught him with the beast roar and he shot me. It's unbelievable how much fucking damage this guy does. Like, it's absolutely unnecessary. I have 40 vitality and a health rune in, and he's still able to 3-shot me on new game. Absolutely unnecessary. Nice throw, idiot. Fucking god damn it. Basically, you don't attack more than twice when he has his pistol out. Did you fuck off? Switch your weapon into its other form, you dick. Fuck. God damn it. Thank you. It was the fashion at the time. Alright, so from the Bloody Crow of Cainhurst, we receive the last rank of the Blood Rapture rune. The final rank of any of the runes is symbolized by a yellow glowing bit in it. And the Bloody Crow of Cainhurst is one of the Vile Blood Hunters. And we also get the same rune from the Shadows of Yharnam, who can be seen wherever the shadow, or wherever Queen Yharnam can be found nearby. Blood Rapture is the raw euphoria of the warmth of blood. This rune resonates with the servants of the Queen, carrier of the Child of Blood, who yearn for their Queen's blood with little hope for requitaments. For them, they find solace in Blood Rapture, that serve as the surrogate for their desires. So, the Shadows of Yharnam drop this, because they can be always found near the Queen Yharnam. Queen Yharnam is the mother of Murgo, the Nightmare Newborn. And Murgo could be considered a child of blood, because it was likely that it was a Great One Father that impregnated him, because the Ring of Betrothal states that it was only given to those who were slated to bear a special child. The Bloody Crow of Cainhurst drops this rune to help strengthen the connection between Queen Annalise and Queen Vile Blood, because the Vile Blood Hunters of Cainhurst collect these blood dregs. The bloodlusting hunters see these frightful things in cold blood. They often appear in the blood of echo fiends, that is to say, the blood of hunters. Queen Annalise partakes in these blood dreg offerings, so that she may one day bear the Child of Blood, the next Vile Blood heir. So to me, the Blood Rapture rune dropping from both of these characters, as well as a whole bunch of other evidence, suggests to me that the blood that was taken by the Scholar in order to start the Vile Blood line was the blood of Queen Yharnam. Oops. And if we take a closer look at the blood dregs, we can see the echoes of blood found within the dregs. They also slightly resemble sperm in a way, because the Queen Annalise is supposed to use these dregs to bear the next child of blood. A dreg is something that collects at the bottom of something. It's usually considered the lowest quality of that product. So when you're forging metal, you're combining metal and heat and other stuff, but there's always a byproduct left at the bottom of the kiln or the forge that is the dregs. It's not as useful, it's a much lower quality metal. You can also find dregs in like wine barrels, for example. You have the wine, which is the product you're trying to get, and then at the bottom of the barrel you would have this dreg, this kind of sludge at the bottom, which is not very good quality. This also helps support the theory that the reason why we find so many piles of corpses in pools of blood in the Chalice dungeons was to help create more impure blood, so that the Tumerians could have their Queen Monarch, Queen Yharnam, bear the Child of Blood Murgo. So, I think the main takeaway from the Bloody Crow of Cainhurst dropping this, as well as the Shadows of Yharnam dropping this, is to strengthen the tie between Queen Annalise and Queen Yharnam. The best thing about the hat is the little porthole it has, so you can see through the cage.
Don't you ever listen to your elders. No matter. You did save my life. I don't seem to be apt for this life anymore. My glory days were long ago now. I know. Here. For you.
Badge of the Crow, signifying a hunter of hunters, who hunt those who have become addled with blood. Addled is drunk, blood drunk, full of bloodlust. The badge of the hunter of hunters is quietly passed down from generation to generation, usually to an outsider from the hinterlands. To be entrusted with this cursed badge, one must be strong, resilient to the seduction of blood, and gracious when taking a comrade's life. We also receive another covenant rune, a carol rune that transcribes inhuman sounds. This red smudged rune means hunter and has been adopted by those who have taken the hunter of hunters oath. Adopted. These watchmen admonish those who have become addled with blood, be they men or beasts. Anyone who has threatened the pledgers of the hunter oath surely has an issue with blood.
This too is hunter's work, but it bears no honor. A burden you may choose to carry. The decision is yours alone. Oh. My eyes grow heavy. Let me rest a while. I'll be fine. Just wait.
So we can see here that Eileen is struggling from her wounds. If we were to reload the area and then come back to this spot, we could see the blood on the ground, but Eileen's body would be gone. However, we can also just kill her and take the blood drag.
Can't go on like this.
So yeah, if we don't kill her here, and we just reload the area and come back, either she survives the fight and leaves and goes somewhere else, or if we fight Eileen in the cathedral, if we get to the part where we can summon Henrik, but we don't fight Henrik, we just kind of put it off, we can fight Eileen in the cathedral, and it almost kind of appears like she started to go insane. Like she admonishes all hunters, and she says that all hunters need to die, or else this is just going to keep carrying on forever and ever. Earlier on in this dialogue, she said that she no longer dreams, and if she kills you at any point in the boss fight up here, she'll say something along the lines of, "Say hello to the doll for me." So when we get to the ending of the game, and Gurman chops off our head, freeing us from the night of the hunt so that we can awaken to a new dawn, he says that we will die, forget the dream, and awaken under a morning sun. Eileen is free from the night of the hunt, yet she still remembers it, and so does Jura. If Jura kills us with his minigun, he has a line of dialogue in the version 1.0 of the game where he says, "I should take it you still have dreams? Well, the next time you dream, give some thought to the hunt and its purpose." So, even though Gurman tells us we're going to forget the dream, a la Mikolash, "Oh no, I'm waking up, I'll forget everything," Eileen and Jura are free of the night of the hunt, but they both remember the night of the hunt and the doll. So I'm not necessarily sure how much truth there is to "you will die and forget the dream," when the other two people still remember the dream and the doll. Alright, go down to Alfred now. If Alfred's quest is still available, he might not be. And then we'll make our way to Upper Cathedral Ward. Nice.
Oh, good to see you safe. Now, let's think up something to discuss. Just tell me what piques your interest. Aha! Is that the sigil of Canehurst? I've heard tell of Canehurst nobles and their amusingly pompous invitations. Wonderful. I thank you profusely. I will depart immediately, but first, a token of my gratitude. Ah, I feel my master's hand at work. Praise the good blood, and let us cleanse these tarnished streets.
Martyr Ligarius led a band of executioners, and this badge was crafted at their dedicated workshop. The wheel symbolizes righteous destiny, the cycle. Their workshop was a secretive enclave of mystical beliefs and heady fanaticism, which served as the backbone of the executioner's unique brand of justice.
It has been an honor, but I must say goodbye. Let us cleanse these tarnished streets, and may the good blood guide your way.
I'll make my way up to Upper Cathedral Ward, and then when I get the lantern there, I'll go ahead and finish Alfred's quest line. I think I have like a window open or something. My legs are cold as fuck. Gotta go figure out where the wind is coming in. Oops. Bullets, please, Grandpa. Thank you, Grandpa. The troll ran off the ledge. Lamau. The sky and the cosmos are one, the choir. So you can find that note relatively early on in the game, but it isn't until you get the key after killing Rom that you can actually explore the area. He has a puke attack and a headbutt attack. And if you get bitten by these little bastards, they'll give you frenzy. Quit puking on me and bite me. Stop it. Bite me, you little freak. Come on now. There we go. Damn, that frenzy builds up fast. Moon go on, or moon go on, moon go off, moon go on, moon go off, moon go on, moon go off. Am I dead? Thought that was gonna kill me. There's the entrance at the Grand Cathedral down there. Go and finish Alfred's quest line and then move on to Upper Cathedral Ward. This is so cold in here, god damn.
Master, look! I've done it! I've done it! I've smashed and pounded and grounded this rotten siren into fleshy pink pulp. There, you filthy monstrosity! What good's your immortality now? Try stirring up trouble in this sorry state. All mangled and twisted, with every inside on the outside for all the world to see.
So Alfred here is voiced by the same person who did Solaire in Dark Souls. If you do Solaire's questline one way, he says, "I've done it, I have." And this is a line that's shared between the two characters.
You, is it? Look at this. Thanks to you, I've done it. Well, isn't it wonderful? Now Master can be canonized as a true martyr. I've done it. I have.
Not what I wanted to do. Stand up. God damn it. Yeah. And of course, Alfred takes credit for our killing of the Queen and says that he's done it himself, but he probably went ahead and smashed the remains a little bit.
I've done it. I have.
So you have to give Alfred the unopened summons, talk to him at the Vileblood Queen Chamber, and then once you've done those things, his quest is complete. You just gotta go get your reward at the end. And then once I go and pick up the rune, I'll go and read the item descriptions from the badges that I got. Tall Grant of the Fireplace, Lamau. Or a campfire, I guess, bonfire. So here we see a shrine or an altar to Martyr Ligarius. You can see him wearing the helmet up there. He doesn't have the same outfit that we see Martyr Ligarius wearing, but he's wearing a variation of the Executioner outfit. This is also where we originally saw Alfred at the beginning of the game. And we can see now that he has completed his quests and canonized Martyr Ligarius as a true martyr. He has ended his own life, where we can collect the Radiance rune, the last of the Covenant runes. This rune for Radiance, adopted by the sworn executioners under Ligarius' command. The executioners despise the impure vile bloods, and no matter what the circumstances, would never cooperate with the bloodthirsty hunters who serve the undead queen, Annalise. So if you are an executioner and you summon in vile blood for co-op, you'll be opposed to each other, and vice versa. So the Radiance is a pyramid shape, and we've seen other examples of a pyramid shape in the Communion rune, where we can see how there's 3 dots in a pyramid around there. We've also seen several statues that are in a pyramidal formation, and a pyramid means many different things across many different cultures. When we have a triangle that is right side up, its base is stable, and all the base looks up to our particular point. So you have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit as an example. And a pyramid right side up represents stability, strength, growth, order. And when you have a triangle upside down and it's balancing on the tip, it means the opposite. It means disorder, chaos, stuff like that. When it comes down to Radiance, I don't know, the whole concept of Radiance is kind of vague in this game. Like, I know that in Christian mythology, God was always represented by some sort of light or some sort of fire. Like if you saw light pouring in from the heavens, it was supposed to be an augur of divinity, like a natural sign of divinity. But we also see radiance emitted from the brain of Mensis, as well as the winter lanterns, which causes us frenzy, right? So I suppose explaining those things as radiance helps kind of clear up the confusion. Like if you were just saying that they produce light, then there'd be more of a concept of light and darkness, which is kind of more of like a Dark Souls thing, I guess. And you also have the notion that a lot of these other ritual materials and enemies are based on some sort of fluorescence or bioluminescence. So anything related to the Great Ones or the Chalice dungeons usually emits or produces some sort of light. When we talk to Ludwig, the first hunter in the DLC, he also says that it was tiny specks of light that guided him and led him to the Holy Moonlight Sword. So seeing radiance as guidance may also be why lanterns take us to the hunter's dream as well. It's something that produces lights that we can use to navigate our way through the darkness. I learned about the meaning behind triangles and pyramids when I was doing a lore playthrough in Control, where there's an entity or a group of entities known as the Board, which are represented by a mathematically perfect upside-down pyramid. I think when I'm done with this lore playthrough, I'll do a Sekiro lore and story playthrough. And then once I'm done with Sekiro, I want to do another playthrough of Control as well. And that should fill up most of my time until the release of Elden Ring. Hey, Allie, what's going on? Yeah, learning about Control actually taught me a lot about Bloodborne and the symbolism therein. And now that I've played Alan Wake, I have even more perspective on the stuff that's going on in Control, so I'll definitely try to get in a playthrough of that before Elden Ring comes out. Also, everybody check out Allie. She's currently on her first playthrough of Control, and she's presently going through the DLC for the first time. Duh. I did that, I did that, I did that. Upper Cathedral War time. Tracy, you're a cat. You're not even real. You have a good poop? You have a good poop? You make a poopy? Feeling good? Time to scream? It's always a good time to scream, huh? She's the kitty, she does the screams. What a baby. What a baby. So here we have the Upper Cathedral Ward. It's the second area in the game that has background music. We have some statues that are unique to the area. They depict grotesque transformed creatures. And this one even kind of looks like it's holding its hand over its stomach, which may be a reference to pregnancy. We have some more of these baby Ebrietas looking creatures. And these ones all gather in prayer if you choose not to fight them. They'll wander over to this spot, gaze upwards to the sky, and then put their tentacles together in prayer. You can also see the similarity between these creatures and Ebrietas. They've got slug-like tails, they move around on their bellies, they have little wings growing out of their backs and multiple eyes. Yeah, Melman, it's arguably one of the best games of all time, to be honest. And I think that even if people don't like the difficulty and the combat in these games, I think that learning about the story and appreciating it as a piece of art is kind of really hard to deny, you know, even if you don't vibe with the difficulty or whatever. It's just an incredibly well put together game. Hey Dracula, what's up, man? No, you're the best game of all time. Yeah, I actually missed a lot of things on this playthrough that I wanted to mention when the time was appropriate. So I know I say this every lore and story playthrough, but the next time I do a Bloodborne lore playthrough, I really need to write down notes, write down a bunch of checklists, and upload that shit to YouTube. But it's probably not gonna happen, let's be real. I'm so lazy. So Great Lake increases all defense types, so it doesn't give you lightning defense or physical defense, it's all damage reduction. And the Stunning Deep Sea increases all resistance by a 100 value. I have two lore playthroughs highlighted already. One was actually I believe it was my very first one that I ever did. And then the other one that I highlighted was like 2 years after that. But yeah, I need to upload one of these more recent ones, but I don't want to upload it to YouTube and miss important stuff. but there's just so much to go over and there's so much to look at and everything that it's kind of hard not to every time. How does that miss? Dang it. Out of my face, bird. The Upper Cathedral Ward is absolutely full of these brain sucker type enemies, which makes it a colossal pain in the ass. TBH. You can skip a large portion of the area by doing the Upper Cathedral Ward skip. The only way to do it is by using the cane to hit that guy through the door, or I think you can also use the beast cutter, if I remember correctly. We also find some beast type enemies in the Upper Cathedral Ward, and the beast enemies in this area have a unique feature, which is their blue glowing eyes. Blue is commonly associated with the arcane, or with magic, and this is something that's in all of the FromSoft titles. Ever since Demon Souls, blue has been associated with magic and the arcane. Fight me! Fight me! I hit way harder than I thought I would. So I guess if these are unique to this area, they're the only place where these blue-eyed enemies can be found. I'm gonna hazard a guess that they were probably choir members that turn into beasts. We don't see any choir members in this place, but we find their gear and their outfits all over the area. But we also learn that the Upper Cathedral Ward is where orphaned children were taken by the church in an effort to be groomed as unseen thinkers. So I guess either the way that I've interpreted it is that the brain suckers and the celestial emissaries are the orphaned children, and the beasts are probably the members of the choir. You can even see that they have coffins lined up. Not necessarily lined up, but they're like on these stands and everything, right? So maybe they would do experiments on the children, and then once they died, they'd bury them this way so that they could be reborn as whatever they ended up as. There's also the boss at the end of this area is the Celestial Emissary, and Not only does the big boss have giant blue glowing eyes, but partway through the fight, the boss will pray, and when it says its prayer, it buffs all the little ones with blue eyes as well. Badge of a member of the choir elites of the Healing Church. The eye signifies the very cosmos. The choir stumbled upon an epiphany, very suddenly and quite by accident. Here we stand, feet planted in the earth, but might the cosmos be very near us, only just above our heads. Before we came into this area, there was a note that said the sky and the cosmos are one. So the role of the choir was to go into the Is Chalice, which is a place that has a direct connection with the cosmos, and they were also assigned to study the stars in the cosmos in an effort to reach a lofty plane of darkness. What they discovered, quite by accident, is that this higher plane of existence that they were trying to reach, that they assumed was far off in the far reaches of space, was actually in the sky above their heads. They just didn't have the perception or the insight in order to be able to see it. This also helps explain why we see all this extra stuff that was unseen before, once we have the proper amount of insight. The wolves in this area drop every type of weapon upgrade except for rocks. So they'll drop bloodstone shards, twin stone shards, as well as chunks occasionally. If you want them to drop chunks more often, level up your arcane or equip an eye rune. You get a blue elixir in this hallway, so I always use one before I go down here, because this brain sucker will just huck projectiles at you until he catches you. Blue elixir is an anesthetic that is said to numb the brain, and if we look at the brain suckers, we can see that they have stitch marks across their head, implying that their skull has been opened up and their brain has either been experimented on or replaced by the phantasmal slugs that pop out when they grab us, that suck our insight out. We also have a pearl slug that we found here, which strengthens the connection between the choir and the chalice dungeons. The pearl slugs also mention the left behind great ones, of which I would consider Ebrietus to be the best example of. You're a cat! You're a cat! Why are you screaming? Why are you screaming? And then we have the choir outfit. Attire of the choir, high-ranking members of the Healing Church. Members of the choir are both the highest-ranking clerics of the Healing Church and scholars who continue the work that began at Byrgenwerth. The eye covering indicates their debt to the teachings of Master Willem, even though their paths diverged. So when we killed Amelia, we saw Lawrence leave the Byrgenwerth College in order to pursue the art of blood ministration and eventually head the Healing Church. So the choir, because they're like the nerds of the healing church. They're people who work on insight and have an inquisitive nature about the profane world of reality, the profane existence of reality. So they have eye coverings, which we also saw on Master Willem's outfit. It's kind of weird that we usually associate covering your eyes with beastly idiocy, yet the people most focused on insight also had eye coverings. I never really thought about that before. But we can see more similarities between their outfit and Master Willem's, with the kind of necktie that's around the neck, the incense hanging as a necklace, and we can even see the leaves and pearls hanging on our waist there as well. If you take a blue elixir, it prevents the other one from running up on you. And then if you walk slowly, you can actually sneak up behind this dude and get a free backstab. Or you can mess up and have your weapon in the wrong form, so you can't do a backstab. Somehow. Oh yeah, I already killed that guy. Ha! Wasted a blue elixir. Feels bad. Here we have a corpse that's wearing a holy shawl of the church, likely a previous choir member. And it doesn't say use, it doesn't say inspect, it says talk. So when we talk to this mummy, we learn the make contact gesture. I've been playing a lot of Battlefield 2042 recently, and something I noticed is that when you start off a match in Battlefield 2042, there's a little cutscene where a helicopter is landing on an aircraft carrier, and when you're landing a helicopter in a military situation, they have these different hand signals they use to symbolize different things. Like, he's basically relaying information to the helicopter so that they can know how far away they are from the ground and everything. And one of the first things they do in the cutscene is they go like this, and then they do some other gestures. So, making contact is... It's not just... It doesn't just mean like a greeting. If we were to discover aliens, or if aliens ever visited the Earth for the first time, the first interaction between humans and aliens would be making contact. And you can see that, much like the babies that we saw earlier, he's looking up towards the astral clock tower. Now that we have the make contact gesture, we can commune with the brain of Mensis, which is a great one of itself. Which is a great one itself. Words are hard. Where am I? Here we go. Key to the orphanage, birthplace of the choir. The orphanage, shadowed by the Grand Cathedral, was a place of scholarship and experimentation, where young orphans became potent unseen thinkers for the healing church. The choir that would later split the healing church was a creation of the orphanage. So there's a lot of orphans in Yharnam because a lot of people are dying, obviously. But the healing church would scoop up these orphans and then continue to do experiments on them, either turning them into the brain suckers or the celestial emissaries that we find throughout the area. The Healing Church was willing to do whatever it takes in order to reach their goals. This includes experimenting on an entire city worth of people, resulting in the death of thousands, kidnapping orphans and then turning them into beings from another plane of existence, as well as kidnapping common folk and doing rituals with their body parts in the Unseen Village. They were willing to do whatever it takes to evolve humanity to their next step in evolution. So the Celestial Emissary boss fight has many ads, but only one of them is the true boss. You can always tell which one is the boss because when you lock onto it, it doesn't have a health bar above its head. The boss is also a lot more passive than the other ones. And the ads will always respawn throughout the fight. So when the boss prays, he buffs the little ones and grants them blue glowing eyes, similar to what we saw on the beasts in the Upper Cathedral Ward. Stop it. Stop it. I just want to take a screenshot. Oh, I should probably turn the HUD off, shouldn't I? Hey, Bada. How's it going? Yeah, usually you just kill the boss so fast you don't have a chance to see it do the buff. Damn it, you got fucking photobombed, Lamau. So from the Celestial Emissary, we receive one of the higher ranks of the Communion Rune. There's actually 5 ranks of Communion Rune, whereas the other ones are usually just 3 ranks. Communion is a religious ritual, I guess you could say, where, I mean, communion is another word for like a communication, you know, you're communing with somebody, you're having a discussion, you're sharing your thoughts with that person. But communion is also a religious ritual where in the Catholic faith and the Christian faith, the body and blood of Christ are consumed so that we can properly commune with God or be initiated into a religious order. That this is where the you take bread, which represents the body of Christ, and blood, which represents the blood of Christ, and it says, "This is my body broken for you. This is my blood, which has been shed for you. Eat and do something." I can't really remember. But this rune represents the healing church and its ministers. Blood administration is, of course, the pursuit of communion. And an emissary is somebody that you send to a different country in an effort to represent your own country. So you have like the American embassy in Russia, and an embassy is considered a safe place for people of that country or nationality to go to. And an emissary is somebody who is a part of that deal. It's somebody that you would send to another country or a foreign place in order to represent yourself. The flowers that we see here have not yet blossomed. Our eyes are yet to open. But if we look at the Nightmare Frontier, we can see the same flowers except they're in full bloom. So here we have the flowers in the Nightmare in full bloom, and then these are the flowers that we have in the Upper Cathedral Ward here. Stupid PS5 interface, blah. So these are lumen flowers. The lantern here is called the Lumen Flower Gardens. When we explore the research hall in the Hunter's Nightmare, the DLC, we can explore the same room, except they have flowers that look more similar to sunflowers, and those are referred to as lumen woods. We also have these curious statues in this version, where when we visit Upper Cathedral Ward, we have these statues that also can be found in the Nightmare Frontier, or a variation of them. But when we go to the DLC, and we go to this exact same room in the research hall, these statues aren't present for some reason. They've been removed. So these must have been added later on, when the choir took over, I guess. Baby. A call beyond, one of the secret rites of the choir. Long ago, the healing church used phantasms to reach a lofty plane of darkness, but failed to make contact with the outer reaches of the cosmos. The rite failed to achieve its intended purpose, but instead created a small exploding star, now a powerful part of the choir's arsenal. At times, failure is the mother of invention. So even though it says that the call beyond is a rite specific to the choir, Mikolash also uses this ability, and he's a member of the School of Mensis. But you have to remember that the School of Mensis and the choir are both a part of the healing church, so they probably just share the knowledge with each other. Yeah, it's an incredibly powerful arcane spell that creates a small explosion, and we can even kind of see like the life cycle of the cosmic slugs. We have the baby slugs and the pearl eggs that they come out of. As they grow up, they have these shells which harbor their slime, that harbor their arcane strength. We have the Augur of Ebrietis, which is a slug that's covered in that slime. And then we have a Call Beyond, which is like the cosmic super slug that the choir ended up finding out or discovering. Here we have Damien of Mensis. Damien has the exact same outfit as Mikolash, so he's a member of the School of Mensis. And we can also find him outside of Great One bosses. We can summon him for Ebrietas, and we can also summon him for the Vacuous Rom. There was a note in the lecture building that said, hunt the Great Ones, as well as 3/3 chords. So the Mensis scholars and the people at Bergenworth were obviously privy to hunting these beings we might perceive as gods and collecting the chords from them in an effort to match their greatness. Here we have the Altar of Despair, the boss arena for Ebrietas. The Altar of Despair in the Japanese translation is more akin to Altar of Grief. These same pillars can be found all throughout the Chalice dungeons, as well as in the Nightmare of Mensis. And all around the Altar of Despair we have these eroded statues that resemble statues that we've seen all throughout our journey in other places. But these are unique in that they are not just low texture versions, but they appear to be eroded and worn down. So here we have the actual altar. I think Altar of Grief is probably more fitting than Altar of Despair, because while Ebrietas may be despairing because she has been left behind, she has not ascended to the higher plane of existence known as the Nightmare, but she also appears to be grieving to this statue that likely represents Rom. So my headcanon is that this is an altar of Rom who has died, and the reason why we fight Rom on the Moonside Lake is because the Moonside Lake is a part of the Nightmare, which helps explain the difference between this thing and the Vacuous Rom that we fight. We can also see cold blood flowers as well as tomb mold growing up from the altar. Okay, I'll be right back. I gotta figure out why my legs are so fucking cold. So yeah, Bryatis is completely passive. She won't even bother attacking us until we attack her first. She's too busy despairing. You can see how she has some of the same characteristics of the creatures that we saw outside. She's got a similar shaped head, albeit with more little noodles and appendages coming out of it. She's got big ol' wings. They don't look like they'd be much good, but she does still use them to fly nonetheless. And she has little slug leggies. Technically, I think when slugs crawl around, I think those are technically their feet, if I remember correctly. So Abryatis is a great one. She is classified as a kin because she takes more damage from kin stuff as well as thrust and lightning. But if we take a look at the achievements, we can see that Abryatis and Rom and a few others, including the Wet Nurse, are all great ones. Defeat Great One, Abryatis, Daughter of the Cosmos. A lot of people usually call her Ebrietis, but the church minister has cut content where he refers to her as Abryatis. The name Abryatis is kind of interesting. When we think about being inebriated, that means that you're drunk, and there's obviously themes of blood drunkenness throughout the game. Abryatis is also a genus of butterfly, which might explain the giant wings and everything. The tentacles are obviously a reference to H.P. Lovecraft, where damn near every great one has tentacles in some sort of capacity, like Cthulhu and others. And you can see here how she has these little green knobby bits. The green things appear to be eyes, but when we look at her during the boss fight, she's holding up the eyes with her noodles. And if we take a closer look at Abryatis, we can see that the inside of her head, or the inside of her mouth, is also lined with multiple yellow eyes all over the place. So you see how it looks like she's holding the green eyes in place to the sides, and then she has her true eyes on the inside. Butterflies have a mechanism called false eyes. We can also see this in some mammals as well, but some species of butterfly have what appear to be eyes on the back of their wings. So when prey go up to pounce on this creature, it appears like it has a giant scary face instead of just being an innocent little butterfly. Butterflies are also a creature that undergo metamorphosis, which is something we've seen in the game. And metamorphosis is when you change from one form into another. All butterflies start off as caterpillars, but they wrap themselves up in a cocoon and turn into a butterfly. Duh. I think that's it. Screw it, I'm gonna use the Beast Claw. Oops, I didn't mean to do that much damage. Oh well. She does have an ability where she calls in a bunch of stars and it does a bunch of damage to you. And when she enters that last phase of the fight, she also has a resonance field around her that creates a sound and does damage to us. I did more damage than I thought I was going to. Oops. I usually try to show off that stuff on these runs. A chalice that breaks a labyrinth seal. Great chalices unlock deeper reaches of the labyrinth. The Great Is chalice became the cornerstone of the choir, the elite delegation of the Healing Church. It was also the first great chalice brought back to the surface since the time of Bergenworth, and allowed the choir to have audience with a Bryatus. So, Bergenworth was the first group to enter the chalice dungeons and explore them, but it wasn't until the choir had this that they were able to have audience with Ebrietas. The land of Is lies in direct contact with the cosmos, and when we explore the Is chalices, you can see the cosmos like flowing through the air, as well as there being like blue tomb mold and celestial emissaries all over the place. So, while the orphanage and Upper Cathedral Ward and Yosefka's clinic might have us imply that the church was trying to create these creatures, we also find the celestial emissaries and Ebrietas in the Is chalices. So it may not be that they were trying to invent these creatures, but rather they were trying to make their own version of these creatures using the blood that they found. So I'll probably start off tomorrow with Is chalices, and then I'll do Defiled. I know I said I was going to do Defiled today, but I gotta get me some groceries, because I'm fucking starving. And I need to go back to the Nightmare of Mensis now, and get those other things that I missed. Probably should have spent those echoes, but oh well, it doesn't really matter if I lose them. There's a gem up here I want to pick up as well. I already talked about all this stuff here at the beginning, or earlier on in this stream, and I'm gonna come back and do this area later on anyway. When I'm doing a lore and story playthrough, I leave Wet Nurse alive, because in order to eke out a certain dialogue from the doll, I need Wet Nurse to be alive for the playthrough. Once you kill Wet Nurse, her dialogue gets stuck on "Go fight Gurman at the tree." But if I kill certain bosses in the DLC and then talk to the doll, I get more lore. Here we can see Queen Yarnum, the lady that we saw after we killed the vacuous Rom, and the pale blood sky was revealed to us. As well, when we killed Rom, we were able to hear the cries of Murgo. And when we find Queen Yarnum up here, she's looking up here and crying because that's where Murgo is being kept. We can see the blood on her stomach, which implies that Murgo was taken out of her womb. or rather the Yarnum Stone, I guess you could also say. We can see that her hands are bound, very similar to the spirits that we saw in Canehurst, and if we look closely at her hands, we can also see the ring of betrothal, which was only given to women who were slated to bear a special child, in the Tumerian age of the Great Ones, where marriage was a blood contract. In this chest we have another Yosefka's blood vial. Typically we can only get these at the beginning of the game, or when we kill the Celestial Emissary at Yosefka's clinic. The only justification I have for putting this one here is that you may not have found any other third chords until you've gotten this far in the game. So maybe if you loot Yosefka's blood vial and then fight the Murgo, fight the wet nurse and receive the cord, maybe this is supposed to remind you to go check out the clinic and try to get the cord from there. But that's really the only justification I've been able to discern. Ooh, I thought I was a little bit late on that one. Alright, let's see if I can't get some better rolls on this gem. Or these gems. They either drop bullets, pebbles, or gems. And when they drop pebbles, they usually drop 10 at a time because they have so many eyes. Come on now. Bah, of course. Alright, don't run off the ledge. Don't run off the ledge. Don't run off the ledge. That was close. That was very close. If we look down here, I don't think it renders the spiders from up here, but that's the same room where we fought the giant spider and all of her chillins.
I hate you, and I think you should die. You are an idiot, and I hate your voice. There's no room on this paper to properly describe how much I hate you. Go die.
10 out of 10 username. Thank you for the follow. Lamau. Choir bell invigorates all cooperating parties, healing them. Special hunter tool of the choir, high-ranking members of the church, fashioned after a bell that projects an arcane sound across planes of existence. The sound of this smaller silver version of the bell does not cross planes, but grants vigor and healing to all cooperators. So, the School of Mensis locking up a hunter tool of the choir away in the Nightmare of Mensis might help explain why Edgar, choir intelligence, is found snooping around the place. Hey Autumn, how's it going? I must have died after falling off the ledge, otherwise I would have echoes here. Out of the way, please, sir. Oh, I forgot that when you go down, it sends another one back up. Oh, it faces you in the opposite direction, though. The messengers, inhabitants of the dream. Wait, I didn't get it yet? Holy shit. Come on, let's go. Do the thing. Do the thing. Come on. Jeez. Go make a sandwich while I'm waiting for this. Ta-da. So now we have all 3 ranks of the moon rune. The great ones that inhabit the nightmare are sympathetic in spirit and often answer when called upon. So this is the hardest, one of the hardest ritual materials to come by because you can only get 1 per playthrough. And this is a requirement to get into the Chalice dungeon that contains Queen Yarnum. Living String. The immense brain that Menzies retrieved from the nightmare was indeed lined with eyes on the inside, but they were of an evil sort, and the brain itself was terribly rotten. But even still, it was a legitimate great one, and left a relic. A living relic at that, which is a precious thing indeed. If we take a closer look, we can kind of see that it has like what appears to be kin blood on it. It's got that kind of gray blood all over it. I'm not necessarily really sure what the living string is supposed to represent. Like whether the shape of it is particular or something. It almost to me kind of seems like a parasite. You can have parasites that live in other creatures, and they can often appear to be like worms or other sorts of things. So you could consider some of these parasites to be living strings, if you really want to put it that way. And there's obviously a lot of themes between Bloodborne and parasites. A parasite is a creature that uses another creature to sustain itself. It doesn't go hunting for food, it latches onto something and takes nutrients or blood from that creature. So in the same way that Mikolash is the host of the nightmare, we could also consider the Great Ones to be these kind of parasitic creatures which need human beings in order to survive, because the chords also say that every Great One loses its child and then yearns for a surrogate. So if the nightmares are born from the contact made between humans and Great Ones, this helps lend into the parasitic nature of these creatures. Yeah, an umbilical cord, it's a good parallel as well, because it's like, it's a string that connects the baby to the mother. And this would also imply that babies are parasitic to the mother, which is honestly kind of true, because while the baby is growing, it subsists off the nutrients and sustenance that it gains from the mother through the umbilical cord, right? So yeah, that does kind of make sense. And for 18 years after, too. Truing. But yeah, it's the spiral up at the top that kind of really gets me. Like, we see twisted crosses in the Metamorphosis runes, but then the living string is represented, or appears to have some sort of, like, spiral sticking out of it. Alright, I think that's going to be it for me today, folks. I am absolutely starving, and my throat's actually already starting to get sore despite drinking water all bloody day. So tomorrow I will start off by exploring the Is chalices. Once I'm done with Is, I'll wrap up the Defiled chalice, and then we're basically good to start the DLC tomorrow once I'm done rooting around in the chalices.
Welcome. What? Very well.
So that'll be it for now. I'll see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. And I don't necessarily think we'll be wrapping this up tomorrow. Usually the DLC takes me at least 2 streams because there's a lot to go over. And the DLC is really what ties the room together in terms of the Bloodborne story and lore. And there's a lot to check out in the DLC. So tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern. I'll probably stream later tonight as well and play some Battlefield. I'm trying to get into that sort of a sort of mode where if I stream earlier on, it'll be Dark Souls and Bloodborne related type stuff or lore type stuff, and then later on in the evening I might stream some Battlefield, and on the weekends. And once Elden Ring comes out, though, it's game over. It's gonna be all Elden Ring all the time, basically. Who do we got? Who do we got? Who do we got? Who do we got? Alright, I'm gonna send you all over to Autumn. Autumn is doing his, he's doing some Bloodborne, or he's doing some Sekiro, sorry. And he's also an artist, so he usually does art streams, but he's a pretty big FromSoft fanboy as well. So I'll send you all over to him. Have a good night, take it easy, and I'll miss you. Bye.